Hey, this is Louise Post. My new album is coming out on June 2nd. It is called 𝘕𝘭𝘭, and you are listening to The Vinyl Guide.
This episode is brought to you by Groove Washer, the best record cleaners and protective sleeves for your vinyl collection. Ask for the Groove Washer from your local shop or go to groovewasher.com. Discount code VinylGuide10. And now, on with the show.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. It's Nate. Welcome to episode 394 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And this week we have on the show Louise Post, who you may know from Veruca Salt. She co-founded the band. She's had many songs etched into our collective consciousnesses. Today, Louise and I dive deep into many elements of her career, her first records, the formative vinyl of her youth, as well as recent and upcoming vinyl reissues of Veruca Salt music, the destruction of the Veruca Salt master tapes, the rare recordings, and more. And today we also celebrate Louise's new solo LP, 𝘕𝘭𝘭, out June 2nd, but there is a track on streaming services now, 𝘚𝘭𝘰, and it's got a video too. Look them up and set yourself up to get the full album when it's released on June 2nd. Plus, there are tour dates and a limited white vinyl version of 𝘕𝘭𝘭, all available for pre-order at louisepost.com. Oh, and hey, if you love Louise Post, and let's be honest, who among us doesn't, there is an extended version of this interview available only to show patrons at patreon.com/vinylguide. That's right. More of this chat with Louise, more facts, more music stories, and it's not only extended, but it's commercial free and high resolution audio. Now, if you're not already a Patreon supporter, you can head up there now. I'm always putting extra stuff up there for the homies that help keep this show going. That's patreon.com/vinylguide. And thanks in advance for your support. And finally, if you're new to the Vinyl Guide podcast, we welcome you with open arms. Grab a seat, there's some beer in the fridge, and enjoy any of nearly 400 other episodes and interviews available for free anytime. Interviews like Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr., episode 393 of the Vinyl Guide, Perry Farrell and Eric Avery of Jane's Addiction, episode 387, Steve Turner of Mudhoney, episode 384, Chris Shiflett of Foo Fighters, episode 382, Jason Bonham on memories of his father John and the music of Led Zeppelin, episode 383. Patty Boyd, famous photographer, shares lots of stories about being the former Mrs. George Harrison and Eric Clapton, episode 370. And lots more. Follow the Vinyl Guide podcast anytime for free in your favorite podcast app. Scroll, download, listen, and enjoy. Alrighty, with the upfronts done, let's go 𝘕𝘭𝘭 with Louise Post. Louise, thank you so much for joining us here on the Vinyl Guide. Here on the show, obviously we talk about various music nerdery, but we're also really into records and collectibles, which you have many throughout your career. I'm not sure if you're aware of all the different vinyl collectibles and even CD collectibles that are from your music. Are you?
I think I'm aware of possibly most of them, if not all. I could be surprised. You may surprise me. But I'm pretty aware of the singles and the B-sides, but there's a lot that happened overseas and abroad that I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I saw everything.
Got it. Okay. All right. So just so everyone knows, Louise has a brand new record coming out, 𝘕𝘭𝘭, June 2nd, with a tour starting June 12th. Tour dates and a white vinyl pre-order is available at louisepost.com. So go up and grab that. I believe that's a limited pressing, so get it quick. That will be on a future episode of the collectibles that we're talking about here. Now, Louise, as I understand, you're also a bit of a record fan of vinyl. I don't know if you'd call yourself a record collector, but kind of where would you put yourself in the vinyl continuum?
Well, I was born and bred on vinyl. That is how I first imbibed my first music. Mm-hmm. I stared at my favorite records growing up my brother gave me Abbey Road when I was 7, and shortly thereafter, I acquired Let It Be, and I stared and stared at those pictures and wanted to be, I guess the seed was planted. I listened to those incredibly brilliant records and wanted to be in a band. I loved the tactileness of quality of having those albums in my hands, my tiny hands, as it were. I was very small. My brother and sister were older, and they were classic rock heads. So I heard everything through them. And I got the records I was given were like Rumors, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, and As If I Need to Say Who the Band Is, and Heart, Dreamboat Annie, and David Bowie 1, Changes 1. Those are just 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. And I would stare at those records and like, I know every detail, and I listened to them repeatedly on my turntable with the built-in speakers, and music was my love. It was like my first love. And it came out of those speakers off of that vinyl. And I still love to feel the needle drop and hear the music on actual vinyl. Records have always been, like, in my career, have always been a super important part of vinyl records, have been a super important part of that, because I don't, this digital is just sort of like vapor to me. There's nothing to hold on to, and there's no art attached, and it's all like brightly backlit, and there's nothing you can make it your own. Of course you can make songs your own just by listening to them, but it's different. You don't have that physical attachment. And I think you feel less personally like connected to the music without having something to hold on to. I'm just a purist in that way. I love the actual quality of vinyl. And when we went gold on American Thighs, everyone in Veruca Salt was like, we were given a gold CD at the time. We were like, no. We need the gold record. Furnish us with the gold record, please. And so Geffen Records did that. They gave us a gold record.
I would imagine, as an artist, especially in growing up around that time, I mean, you and I are the same era. The music really doesn't feel final until it's on a record. Do you have a copy of Sleepwalker now? Do you have a physical?
No, but I've listened to the test pressing. That was awesome. It was without artwork, but it was still really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to hear it on a test pressing, but I can't wait to actually see the artwork and pull it out. The artwork is so important to me and always has been. And there are some records I haven't gotten it really right with the artwork. And this one I made sure to follow my vision. And because I was a sleepwalker as a child, and my brother's a photographer, and he took, my younger brother took a bunch of pictures of St. Louis at night and put out a book called Ghost Town some years back. And the photos are just glorious. And it was he took a lot of photos of buildings that were about to be buildings or structures or monuments that were going to be soon after torn down. And they were just haunting. And I asked him to shoot the cover, but he has 4 little kids and he was pretty busy. And so I asked a friend of mine, offered to come to St. Louis, meet me there. And because I grew up there, and that's where I did my sleepwalking. And she shot me on the cover walking in the dark in a nightgown in a ghostly way. And in the inside, the gatefold, we have my 7-year-old niece in the same spot, walking in the same place. So it's she looks very much like me as a little girl.
So you actually went back to the location in St. Louis where you originally sleptwalked as a youth. Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That was important to me. I needed the trees and I needed the feel of the air. I needed all of it.
Do you spend a lot of time in front of the record player these days? Is it are records part of your daily or weekly life?
I wish I could turn the camera so you could see my house. I will say my husband is the bigger vinyl nerd of the two of us. We moved into this house and got a nice stereo with custom speakers that were, we bought from Utah, or he bought from Utah, and they're beautiful. And And my sister said to me when we moved in and she came to this house, she said, I see you filling this house with music, amazing, beautiful music. And indeed we have. It was like she manifested it for us. And we've both written records in this house, 2 records, at least. He has built such a massive vinyl collection that you'd be stunned if I were to turn the camera around. We don't have enough shelves for all the records. He became such a vinyl nerd that he first subscribed to Vinyl Me Please, and then was a part of many record clubs, including ones he created himself. And over the pandemic, he and his good friends would send each of them, with this college friend, they would send each other a record a month. So they had this, and then he had another one of those, a group of those. So a lot of the bands I hear come through him, like bands I love and hear repeatedly come through Tony, because he plays, there's so many records in my house, and he's a huge fan of vinyl and vinyl art. He's always really taken by the art. He shows me, oh my God, look at this. He's a huge fan of, speaking of Australia, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And of course their vinyl is incredible. And so we're always like amazed by what they put out. And he's always just floored by it, you know? And so my husband just made a record himself called the Brontosaur Reaver, and the vinyl is beautiful. He just went all out on it. He has like a 12-page booklet with each song has a different piece of art devoted to it. He collaborated with this wonderful visual artist. The vinyl itself is double album, splattered vinyl, heavy, gorgeous record, embossed. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So yeah, we are big on vinyl in this house for sure.
I would say so. Now, you had older siblings, yeah?
Yeah.
You were the youngest?
I had one younger.
Okay. So...
Well, two technically. I have a step family, yeah.
Okay. So sounds like a lot of that influence and musical cachet came from your siblings. Do you recall the first record that you bought with your own money?
Yeah. It was the B-52's Whammy, and the B-52 is my own private Idaho. Is that what it's called? The red one.
Oh, something Planet, Wild Planet.
Oh, Wild Planet.
Okay.
And shortly thereafter, I purchased the yellow B-52's record. But yeah, those were among the first.
Was that kind of new territory for your siblings? Was anything shocking about that, or did they welcome it along with the classic rock?
Well, I was older then. Actually, let me back up, because that was later. I bought the Cars. And I saw that concert when I was 12. And I feathered my hair. I was on a double date of sorts with my big sister and her date and his little brother. And he was, 14 and I was 12. He was, I think, a freshman in high school. And I wore a rugby shirt and a striped shirt, and I feathered my hair, and he didn't take any notice of me. But the concert was great. It blew my mind. So yeah, that was really something. And even before that, my mother and her boyfriend took me to see Jackson Browne at this giant outdoor arena, whatever, shed arena. And I don't know, I was like in love with Davy Jones of the Monkees when I was little. And then Jackson Browne was sort of like the next step up from Davy Jones. He just looked like him. And he's a really good songwriter. And I went and got both Jackson Browne records, the Running on Empty one and the other one. So I owned those, and I just thought he was dreamy. And I don't know if the other ones I was given or I bought, but I think I was too young to have bought them myself. But I had the records I just poured over and stared at and wanted to be sort of what just sort of dreamed about being in a band, I guess, was Fleetwood Mac Rimmers and Heart, Dreamboat Annie, and the Mamas and the Papas, Monday. And there was this song called String Man I fell in love with the string man. He played guitar in a rock and roll band. And every night I'd watch him play. They got better every day. I swear that song was prophetic for me. I have dated guitarists basically my whole life. And I just looked at, and of course there was Mama Cass and Michelle Phillips on those record covers, and Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie and Nancy and Ann Wilson, and then just all of the Beatles. I wanted to be them. I was, like, which Beatle do I think is the cutest? And it was a tie between Paul and George, but I ended up marrying a guy who looks more like John. And I just fell in love with the magic behind making albums, and what happens with the chemistry of those people when their voices come together and they make these beautiful songs that are just so, I guess, a haven, for a safe haven for a child, an escape, something you make your own. Music is so intensely subjective and personal, and once it's, as a musician, it's like once you've released it, it's not yours anymore. It's the world's. It's other people's. There's a beauty to that, and sort of like almost a sense of loss. It's like you're letting it go, But that's where I fell in love with music, and where I became someone who wanted to make music, and I think the seed was planted and wanted to be in a band and make music with other people.
With Sleepwalker, I've only had a couple of days with it. I recognize your voice in the lyrics from knowing your work pretty much throughout your career. Hearing Sleepwalker, the lyrics clearly Louise Post. The music has evolved. It's in a different place now. And I think that's a good thing. Artists always need to evolve. Going into Sleepwalker, was that something you recognized? You were in a different place musically.
Yeah, I have at times been very clear that I want to make a bombastic pop rock record. I want it to be balls to the wall, like wheels up, let's do this. And heavy drums, and the heavier the better. And this was not that. That is not the place I was in. And I may be again, but I wasn't there for this. And I didn't set out to make a kind of record, but I've always loved pop and hip hop and, dreamscapes. I was just talking about Eno. And the funny thing about one of the many surprising things about having a kid, is that their music infiltrated my life, and my child has really good music tastes. And I didn't expect to be influenced by music that they brought to the table. Like, it's one thing to hear stuff via my husband or friends, but to hear it through my 12-year-old is different. And it wasn't just that, but I heard things that I otherwise wouldn't have heard. And then I've had my own discoveries, like that, during the pandemic. I don't know where I happened upon Post Malone, but his music really, like, for whatever reason, it just got me through. I think he's an incredible songwriter, and I think he probably has a great team of people who help him with that. But his spirit, his music, and his person, and his songs essentially like helped carry me through that. And a lot of music did. It's just stuff that I turned to. I was never, until really recently, a Taylor Swift fan. That happened. But that was recent. That was very recent. And I'm all in now. I'm like, oh, wow, I've been missing this the whole time. I heard a lot of Billie Eilish at the time. One of my favorite moments of lockdown, honestly, one of the things that gave me one of my happiest moments maybe during that time that felt so dismal, was Billie Eilish did like a live concert, like a virtual concert, right? And I did it just for my kid, or so I thought. It was so beautiful. It was so beautifully rendered. All the digital, the CGI stuff was so gorgeous, and it was so beautifully done. And I became a real fan of her and her brother. Absolutely. I think Phineas is an incredible songwriter. And I just didn't go into this album thinking I need a full band. If anything, I felt like I don't want the weight of a full band around me. I wanted to collaborate with like one other person and find what this record is together. And I had already been making demos, so I had an idea. I was using like drum loops on Logic and playing bass and playing all the instruments myself and singing my harmonies. And I had some demos that really excited me. So I kind of already knew which direction I was going in.
So let's go back a little bit. Now, the name Veruca Salt, Willy Wonka character, was there ever any issue with using that name, Veruca Salt?
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey everyone, I'm here to talk to you about Seams Easy record sleeve repair strips. Ever find a record in a used bin where the vinyl is gorgeous, but the sleeve has this ugly split and is even falling completely apart? Well, that's okay. Grab it anyway, because with Seams Easy record sleeve repair strips, you can fix that right up. Seams Easy record repair strips repair seam splits from the inside, so it doesn't affect the appearance of a record sleeve, but it does make it functional again. With Seams Easy, records can now slide in and out like new. Turn a $5 record into a $25 functioning collectible. Just ask your local record shop for Seams Easy strips, and if they're not in stock, go to SeamsEasy.com. That's Seams Easy with 2 Z's. Seams Easy record sleeve repair strips. Seems easy because it is. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VinylGuide10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VinylGuide10.
Now we return to the program, already in progress.
No limits.
So let's go back a little bit. Now, the name Veruca Salt, Willy Wonka character, was there ever any issue with using that name, Veruca Salt?
No.
Never got a strongly worded message from Warner Brothers or whoever about that?
Oh, I think it had become public domain, and we snatched it up as our band name without any problems. The only problem was that another band called themselves that right after us, and we'd already recorded music under that name. So we had to have our management, do some kind of casual cease and desist. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was something that happened. And then there was a time at which I'd kept the band name, but the band name and the band going without the original members, and I let the name lapse. Not that, what do you call it? What you call it? You tell me.
Like a trademark?
Yeah, it was not that. But so it became kind of up for grabs, and there's a shop called Veruca Salt, and
the domain.
The domain. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So that was the only problem with it, but having it in the beginning was never an issue. Mm-mm.
Okay. Now, at this point, do you and the Veruca Salt entity control the music like American Thighs or Blow It Out Your Ass? Is that something, do you know where the master tapes are? Do you control the rights to the music at this point, or is it property of some other label or entity?
Interesting question. It is still technically the property of Universal.
Mm.
We never had, in our contract, we never had the masters revert to us, which was a giant mistake. Never do that. And whatever artists are listening, don't do that. At least have a designated period of years after which the masters revert to you. One of the things that happened during that time is that it was in 2008, there was a fire in one of the warehouses, one of the Universal Studios, not Universal Studios, Universal Music warehouses, with a lot of the historic recordings from Geffen Records, and they were burned, including ours. We were one of many artists involved in a lawsuit, and there was nothing came of that. Because the Universal, we never got a letter of acknowledgement. We were never told. We found out via someone else. And so our masters were burned in a fire in a warehouse out of negligence. So it's really, we could technically go re-record American Thighs on our own. Speaking of Taylor Swift, she's doing that right now,
Yeah.
Famously. And we talked about it at one point, but then we I don't know, we were too busy wanting to make new music. So when the band reunited, we weren't eager to go re-record our old work. We wanted to make new music, and so we made Ghost Notes. Okay. And we didn't choose Veruca Salt because of the character per se, although we did come in some ways to embody that person. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it. We chose it because of the sonic sound of the words together. I liked the idea of the sonic assault of it, because as I said earlier, I was imagining a sonic assault, like really loud guitars and drums and vocals that were more receding than over the top. But I think that as of two singers, that was never quite right for us.
So with those masters burned, the multi-tracks, I assume, were destroyed as well. So the recent vinyl reissues of American Thighs and Eight Arms, those are all sounds like from digital backups. Is that
the American Thighs is?
Okay.
Not Eight Arms.
Okay. Eight Arms, those tapes exist? Those are from the masters?
Mm-hmm. Well, I assume they're from the masters.
Okay. Do you have much involvement in some of these recent reissues?
No. We are in the process of reissuing Blow It Out Your Ass. And that I am involved with, because we're doing it via El Camino, our independent label, who released Ghost Notes. He is licensing Blow It Out Your Ass, it's Veruca Salt, from Universal. So we do have... we are making creative decisions about the vinyl and the artwork and things like that. So Universal has granted us that. So we are going to be reissuing that EP. There were only, I don't know how many were ever released, but not many. And our fans have been asking us to reissue that for a really long time.
Okay. All right. So that's something for another time.
Yeah, but it won't be too long in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed it wasn't on streaming. There's several other Veruca Salt releases I don't think are on streaming, and I'm assuming that they're in some sort of transition.
Yeah, there's some stuff I have to sort out right now. Something was recently came down, and I'm not sure why, and I just have to, I hate dealing with that stuff. So, but I have to, so I will.
Right. Now, when you look at the work of Veruca Salt, there's that period with Nina and without Nina. Do you see those two eras still as Veruca Salt? Do you think of them differently?
Well, it's a complicated answer, because on one hand, my original band, Nina, Jim, and Steve, they referred to my version of Veruca Salt as Veruca Starship, because that was kind of their way of dealing with it when I was doing that, because it wasn't easy for me to be doing that. And yet I had not left the band. I was left in the band with the name. So it was up to me to what to do with it. And I was not done. And I felt like I wanted there to be more Veruca Salt records in the V section at the record store, honestly. Mm-hmm. Speaking of vinyl. And I didn't want the band to break up. So I wanted to make more Veruca Salt records. And so in hindsight, if I had the genius moment of thinking this would be a great moment to name it Veruca Starship, I would have, because if anything, it gives credit to all the players I played with. The people who played in that version and those iterations of Veruca Salt, I was really trying to land like the definitive lineup of that era, but it wasn't possible. And for various reasons, because people are people, and there's not always a magic. It's not always match made in heaven. But I learned from each and every one of those players so much about. They all brought their own magic and their own individualism to the recordings or to the stage. And ultimately, like, it was just kind of too much for me to carry on my own. It just weighed on me. And I felt like I had to be everyone. I was carrying the name, right? So I had to stay true to the sound, which was natural. I had to maintain, it was really important to me to maintain the signature sound of Veruca Salt, but I was missing my partner, so that was an impossibility to some degree. And yet, the band itself, or the brand itself, gained a lot of fans during that era because of the songs that I released as Veruca Salt on Resolver and Veruca Salt 4. And so, I would say, yeah, those are Veruca Salt records. They're just not the original lineup. And that is the name that they had. That is the name that I chose to go with. And it's not very clean and clear because there were other people involved and it wasn't the original lineup. So it's a bit convoluted, but I think it's an interesting story, at worst, it's an interesting story. That there were a lot of different players that came into the band at these various times and then left, and the original lineup came back together for a really, happy chapter, like a very healing and harmonious reunion. And I was so happy to put the strife behind me personally and be able to go on and restore what did feel to be the right the right lineup for the band. It definitely felt like everything had been restored to its right place, and it was a relief for me personally. Probably I could speak for the rest of the guys too, but I don't ever want to diminish the people who stepped in and wore that brand proudly, and came out in the band and were on the records, because I played with really formidable musicians who were my dear friends, and they also stepped into some pretty big shoes, and they gave it their all, and I was lucky to play with them.
There are moments of Veruca Starship I absolutely adore, and that's actually some of the collectible records, like Resolver. Finding a vinyl copy of that'll set you back $200, something like that. And I know there's a lot of people looking for those. Would you consider reissuing some of those on vinyl?
Well, I would, but let's just say, other people in the band don't feel as good about it.
Okay.
So I never want to awaken the dragon. So I would never die. That's not a hill I'm going to die on. And so that may not be in our future. The stranger things have happened, but we'll see. It's a circuitous road we are all walking here. We'll see what happens.
Let me pitch you an idea. A double album Resolver and Tonight for the Rest of My Life, both in one package.
I love it. I love it. You know what? Have Nina on next. You can pitch it to her.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the band got back together, there was an RSD release. I think there was a single, Museum of Broken Relationships, and then a Record Store Day 10-inch release.
Yeah.
Was that kind of a test flight? Was the band fully into making Ghost Notes at that time? Yeah, explain to me kind of the decision of creating those two.
Well, we originally Nina and I reconnected. We were just going to get together and sing and see how it went, I guess. We talked about maybe doing what a lot of bands were doing at the time and playing American Thighs from start to finish kind of thing. And we played and sang some old songs, some of our old songs together. And it was just gorgeous. It was such an amazing moment to reconnect and to catch up and to realize that, we met playing music. We were set up on a blind date to make music together. So there was never anything else in our life. Our friendship developed out of that. We were a music business or music creative partners from like the day we met. So there was not like, there's no other context. It was literally a blind date. I showed up at her house with my guitar and sat down and played her a song, and she played me a song. And I realized that this is what I wanted to be doing from now on, and asked her how many days a week she can rehearse and when she wanted to start. That was that. And there was just magic there when I heard our voices together, and I knew there was something really special there. So whatever it was going to be, it was going to be, but I just had to do it. So, and she felt the same. And I've lost track of the question, I guess.
When the band reconnected, those early releases before Ghost Notes. Yeah.
So we talked about just getting together, but when we started getting together and playing Nina's basement, here in LA, we started writing almost immediately, and we were just not interested in playing old stuff. It's like I said earlier, it might have been interesting and maybe a power move, and maybe we still could, re-record American Thighs, but we just wanted to write. And we've always fueled each other. We've always inspired one another, whether really from up close or afar. I think it's that kind of relationship. It's a lifelong creative partnership that is within which there lies a healthy competition. And we want to, I think, inspire, elevate, and impress one another and keep each other excited, and we also need to find ourselves individually as people do and musicians do. And they're certainly in a band, the lines become blurred, and we started to lose track of who was who and what, and losing a sense of our autonomy when we were working together so intensely. But on Ghost Notes, we came back together and I think felt healthy, happy, and whole and ready to do this and coming at it from a different angle, but so excited with renewed excitement and love for one another and for Jim and Steve. It was just lovely. It was a beautiful time. And we immediately started writing. And I think I know that it was when I called her and I said, I have a song. We got together and I played her Alternica from Ghost Notes. That's when she heard that song and realized we were making a record. And that's when things shifted and we were off to the races with that record.
Well, Ghost Notes was 2016.
It was 2015.
Oh, 2015. Okay.
Yeah. Museum of Broken Relationships and It's Holy were of the first songs that we were recording. We went in with Brad Wood, our original producer for American Thighs, and recorded those songs. But we knew already that we were making a record. There wasn't a question of just, should we test the waters? Should we just see how this goes? We were already in it deep, committed, and we were on our way.
That single, Museum of Broken Relationships and It's Holy, there was a limited white label version that I believe was sold originally on the tour. Limited number of 34. Am I getting too nerdy for you?
No, I have that. Yeah, the 7-inch. Mm-hmm.
Yes. What was the story of why there were limited white ones before the mass production one?
I think we just wanted to do something cool. I think we wanted, we wanted to just have a 7-inch and then do a 10-inch for Record Store Day, and have 2 options. I can't remember the exact conversation and how that all came about, but I think we wanted to just have an alternate. We've always been a fan of 7-inches, like going to Reckless Records in Chicago and getting like the 7-inch of Hazel with Truly and Jilted A.B. Because I heard them on WNUR, Northwestern Station in Chicago, like driving up Drive. I would go get my records at Reckless Records back then, and I had everything on vinyl. And all I wanted when we recorded Seether, and we were recording American Thighs, and we put out Seether and All Hail Me. I was most excited of just going to Reckless Records and seeing our 7-inch in the V section. That's all I cared about. That was like the top of the mountain for me. Everything after that was gravy.
That was the orange one, yeah?
They're orange, but there's also, there are 2 different oranges.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do tell.
There's an opaque and there's a translucent one.
Which is the rarest?
Oh, God, now you've got me. I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's all right. That's fine. That's fine. A lot of people tap out at this level. That's fine. It's there's also while we're on that, the 7-inch of Museum of Broken Relationships, there's a limited edition of 34 that are just on a white label. They don't have the regular label on them.
Oh, yeah.
As I understand, those were only sold at band shows.
Yes.
Okay. Any recollection about why that was, or was it some weird misprint that?
I think it was a misprint. I think it was like, God, what was it? We got them early, like they hadn't had time to do the sticker yet or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, and I think we did etchings on one of them. I think it was, oh damn.
You had one with etchings that was, well, this is way back. There's a special etching 7-inch for the UK release of American Thighs.
Yeah. We also have etchings on Ghost Notes right around the inside. We did etchings around the sticker. Mm-hmm.
So the label Velveteen, does that still exist?
Interesting question. It has been just a vanity label up until now, but I just incorporated. So it's official. So I can, if I choose to officially release things on Velveteen, like I can become my own record label.
You could cheat yourself out of the rights.
Yeah, right. I just can't wait to cheat all the bands. Cheat myself and everybody else. It's going to be great.
Ooh, I'm going to take me to court. So here, let's also quickly, before we wrap up with Sleepwalker, I also want to talk about this. The EP, But I Love You Without Mascara. What was the impetus to release this EP?
So I recorded those songs in Los Angeles in the fall of '97. The band had come off tour, a world tour. We had actually just been in Australia and Japan and New Zealand. And we got back and played some shows in the States, and then we had a break, and we were going to start writing for our next record. And I recorded some songs in my best friend lived out here, other than Nina, my other best friend, childhood best friend. And I lived with her, stayed with her, and we booked studio time. And I had heard she was in a band called Stained and Lit. She renamed it Twin Star. Stained and Lit was after a Red Red Meat song, which is one of our friends' bands in Chicago. It's an incredible band. That guy, Tim Rutilli, directed our Seether video and our Laughing in the Sugar Bowl video for Ghost Notes. And he's been in the band Caliphone for a long time now. But anyway, my friend was in this band, Stained and Lit, and and then changed it to Twin Star, and her drummer played on it, and her bass player lent me his bass for it. And I played the bass and had written these songs and was writing, and I co-wrote one of them with that drummer, and his name is Matt Fass, and he has been on me for years and years to release those songs. They never made it onto the Veruca Salt record that was to be with Nina, and Jim had left the band at that point. So it was Stacey Jones and Steve Lack. They didn't make it onto that, obviously, and they didn't make it onto Resolver. So they've just been there, these recordings, these lone recordings, and I kind of forgot about them, to be honest. And this guy Matt had them and sent them to me and said, some years ago, I was like, you really should record these. And he was on me so long about it that finally I was like, yeah, every time I listened, I was like, yeah, these are good. I should release these. And finally it just felt like the right time. And I wanted to co-release them with my friend's music from Twin Star. But she just wasn't interested. She wanted to write new music and didn't want to release that stuff. And so I thought, well, what the hell? But that's at the very last song, the end of the last song. It was like a big sing along, and my friend 𝘠𝘰𝘵𝘢 was there, and Pat Smear stopped by, and was like, everyone was hanging out, and everybody was singing the la 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 la, and Joe and I was yelling at Joe, and my friend Joe, and she was talking about something about, like, I was like, come on, like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I have to put my mascara on. And I said, but I love you without mascara. And so if that's the very last song, and I think it's the last thing I say on the record, so I just decided to name it that. And it was just a moment in time last year where I thought it'd be fun to do. Just let these songs here, see the light of day, and just just say hello to the fans, like, here's something from the past, like it's a little time capsule that I want to share with you. And it was honestly the first thing I had released, that, if I think about it, under my own name. So that was, in a way, it was a bridge to what I'm doing now.
Now, one other thing I want to ask you about is the Depeche Mode cover. Somebody. I adore that. And I think that was more Veruca Starship era. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is one thing that I do regret. It's so interesting you bring that up, because I just saw that. And I thought, why did I not put this under Louise Post? Even if I was hell bent on keeping the name Veruca Salt going, that moment was just me. And that is in no way Veruca Salt. That is purely me. I had my friend John San Juan played Rhodes on that, Fender Rhodes, and this guy Eric, this wonderful cellist, played cello, and I did it at Gravity Studios, which was like a second home to me. And I just wanted it to sound like I rolled out of bed and just started singing. And so I did it on very little sleep. And that song was so important to me that I wanted to do it justice. And the only way to do that would be to make it like dripping with authenticity, like just so personal, because otherwise there's no point. It just felt like this song, it felt like I was treading on greatness, on the tails of greatness. I wanted to do it justice. And I wanted to, the only way I knew how to do that is to just let my heart bleed into it. And Nina and I had just broken up, and I was really broken up about it. I was devastated. And, my best friend Joe was the one who was really there for me at that time. And so that is her talking on my answering machine in that song, in the breakdown of that song. And so it was both like, and I kept the pronouns, obviously, for anyone who has ever heard this cover, I kept the pronoun she, and I was speaking to my two best girlfriends, out of a place of heartbreak. So that was right after Nina and I split up, and I was offered to do that cover, and it's so, I was thinking literally probably yesterday, like, I wonder if I could switch that to just Louise Post, or if I could just, I don't know, because it came out,
Yeah. Well, it's like that song almost doesn't exist. It's not on streaming anywhere.
I know. I don't know what happened to it.
It's the only place you can get it is from ordering a used CD somewhere. So I'd love to see. I found it on YouTube. Anyone listening to this, go to YouTube and dial up Veruca Salt Somebody. It's from a compilation LP for the masses, Depeche Mode. But I don't think that album will ever be available on vinyl just because of the rights and everything like that. So it's pretty hard to find. Certainly,
it's funny. They used a picture of Veruca Salt. Whoever posted that song used a picture of us from the 90s from American Thighs. It's like so completely off. It's nice they posted it, but the photo couldn't be more wrong. It's just hilarious. Yeah. I should post a picture of what it was really like repost it, put it under my name, and just because I have the CD somewhere. I don't know exactly, but I have it somewhere.
So, Louise, here you are, 2023. Sleepwalker is just about to come out. You're getting ready to tour again. This is kind of a change in the routine. I mean, COVID notwithstanding. This is you getting back on that bicycle. How does it feel doing that now?
Well, the main thing that I feel at this very moment is that my band has to rehearse more because two of the band members live out of town. They're definitely the right people for this project, but they live in different cities. So I have to fly them in to get rehearsals, to have rehearsal. Which is fine because everyone is really pro. Like the band that is touring on Sleepwalker is so pro. They're so good. They're so serious musicians, but really wonderful people. I feel incredibly lucky to have encountered them, to have known them before, to be able to have assembled this amazing group of people, including my producer of Sleepwalker, Matt Drennick. So it was a joint effort. He and I pulled together just our A-list musicians that we love and think would be a really good fit. And so far it's amazing. So I'm excited to tour with these guys and play. We had one major rehearsal, and then we shot the video for Guilty on the fourth day. So we really just got our feet wet. So I'm talking about touring, but I'm not ready. I'm probably more ready with my wardrobe than I am with the actual music because every time you write a record and you record it and release it, you have to rehearse the album. And it's strange to have recorded it and know every single note of it, but then to recreate the sounds live is something else, and to perform it live is something else. And so many of these songs I've only performed in the vocal booth, Mm-hmm. So this is it's just a different animal. So in these rehearsals, we've established that it's going to be great, and that it's going to be really smooth sailing, and it's going to be really fun. And I'm excited about it. I think everybody is, and that we all get along great. And I think the next slew of rehearsals, which is next week, is going to be really solidifying what we're doing, getting our set list down. We're doing a couple covers. We're doing some Veruca Salt / Veruca Starship songs. So we need to get those in and tighten those up. And we're just, and then the last slew of rehearsals, the dress rehearsals, will be right before we go out. And by that time we'll be ready to roll. It's just funny to be talking about touring right now when I feel so completely unprepared.
What's changed with COVID? Because now there's kind of it's a new world out there, and especially for touring musicians, are there new rules, new regulations, things you have to deal with you haven't had to deal with in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it yet, so I'll have to get back to you on that on our next time. But everything is different, and I think enough time has passed at this very moment where the panic has somewhat subsided. Hopefully there isn't a new wave of something that renews that and snaps us into like high alert again. But there's just a calmer atmosphere out there right now and what I'm experiencing. But I definitely, it's this feeling of like the world changed. Where there was a tectonic shift in our world when that happened, and we're all kind of coming back to life, and back to real life and learning what real life is now, and learning what our new reality is. And I guess in that sense, yeah, like I don't want to get sick on tour. I want to be healthy, and I want everyone in my band to stay healthy, and that's really important. And so that we can really make it count, because what I have found post the height of COVID is that live shows are more meaningful than maybe they've ever been. Like going to live shows usually takes some contrary action. Like I'm so used to being a homebody now that going out is like, it's not natural to me. Also, like I do have a kid, so I tend to want to be home and be with my family. But when I go to shows, I tend to be really moved and elevated in a way, and excited about music in a way that I haven't been for a really long time. And it's just so important that the musicians are playing and releasing music, and that artists are painting and sculpting and directing and writing, and that everybody is contributing to this essential pool of art that keeps us feeling alive and excited. And that's why I'm making this record, why I'm doing this tour. It's because I want to connect with people. And if my feeling during COVID was like, well, I could retreat into, the shadows, that might be more comfy. But I have this urgent need to write songs. Like the songs are being delivered to my lap, and it's up to me what to do with them. And I really felt like I can't retreat. I have to show up. I have to show up for my fellow artists, for fans of the music that I've put out thus far. I am an artist, and to be quiet would be contrary to who I am as a person, and would be doing myself, and possibly, if I may say, like the rest of the world, a disservice. And I say that not just about me, but about every musician who is inclined, and every artist who is inclined to make art. I feel like we have a somewhat of an ethical responsibility to ourselves and to the rest of the world to actually create and release that, because we are all interconnected, and we give each other life and breath, and we make each other motivated and give one another hope at times when things feel, shaky, whether on a global political stage or in terms of having been through the pandemic and all of the things, the existential concerns that we may have. We need to help each other through it, and we need to support one another. And I guess I say this humbly, if there's something that I can do, it is to share my craft and my voice, and to let it ring out loud.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I felt post-pandemic going to see a show much more present. Yeah. Much more not taking it for granted, right? This could all be taken away. And right. It was for a period of time. So good on you for going out there. And I hope your tour eventually enables you to connect with folks overseas, including Australia. We're looking forward to hopefully having you in the coming months.
Really hope so too. I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back down there.
Look, again, Louise, thank you so much for spending time with us. I want to remind folks the new album, 𝘕leepwalker, it's going to be available on June 2nd. But right now, you can dial up at least one track, depending on when you listen to this podcast. 𝘠𝘰𝘶 is out there. I just saw the video drop, which is exciting as well. 𝘠𝘰𝘶 is available on streaming services, so go ahead and check that out. And, of course, set yourself up to download the full album when it's available on June 2nd. There is white vinyl available at louisepost.com. You got to scroll down to the bottom of the page, but that's okay. Pass the tour dates, grab tickets if she's in your town, but then also pick up the vinyl copy of 𝘠𝘭𝘭 and get that in before that sells out. Louise, such an honor to have you on the show. It's just been a pleasure watching you continue to put out music. Always look forward to any project you're involved in. And again, thank you so much for coming on the Vinyl Guide.
Thank you so much, Nate, for being a longtime listener and for caring. And I hope I get to see you in Sydney because, a tour wouldn't be a tour, a record wouldn't be a record without getting to Australia. So I will manifest it right here and now.
Great. I look forward to it. Oh, she is absolutely delightful. Louise, thank you so much for coming on the Vinyl Guide, and look forward to having further conversations and hopefully seeing you in Australia on the 𝘠𝘭𝘭 Tour. And again, folks, don't forget there is an extended version of this interview available only to show patrons at patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Head up there now. Help support the show. $5 or $10 a month. Whatever you can afford is always helpful, always appreciated. That's patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Alrighty, and that's it for this episode of the Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share these episodes on your social media. Put them on Facebook, tweet them out on Twitter, share them in the Reddit forums or Facebook groups. Tell your local record shop about it. Even your other favorite record nerd friends, show them how to get this podcast on that smartphone of theirs. That is always appreciated. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.